the drivers that are operating these vehicles have no idea how to interface with the technology? What if their car starts talking to them and they don't know what it's saying?
So the beginning of this project was really rooted in trying to understand what drivers really know about these technologies. And so one of the things that's really told us is that conventional cruise control, gosh, just about everybody heard about that. I mean, that's, we use some of those things for anchors. Analog brake systems have been around for 20 years now in production. A lot of people have heard about that. And traction control as well. But as you start to move towards the right side of the slide, we start to get fewer people really aware of the number of technologies like forward collision warning, adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, and so forth. So this is really sort of identifying what is out there in terms of just even actually having heard about some of these technologies.
There have been 3 massively large in numbers of vehicles recalls. One of them involved tire separation, and the other 2 involved, in essence, runaway vehicles. In both cases, the accidents or injuries resulting from these situations were due in part to lack of common sense about driving. In particular, the 2 runaway cars situations. All the driver had to do was put the car into neutral. And in the case of the tire separation, the worst thing you could do was slam on the brakes, and that's what some drivers did, according to my reading of the NHTSA detailed reports. So how do you reach that body of people with things that seem to be common sense?
Well, it's a great challenge, and I think, as a person who studied car crashes my entire career virtually, every crash is completely different. There's a different context to every crash, and understanding the details of each crash is something that we can push forward in these educational campaigns as well. And I think that's the challenge, is to find the most common denominator that we can articulate across the board that will be the most useful. And I think we can find many crashes that are very unique and very rare, thank goodness. But it's those common day-to-day recurrent crashes that Debbie's husband had. That happens, thousands of times every day. And so those are the kinds of things that we're looking at getting across. The rare crashes are harder to do. Spending a lot of resources on some of those rare events can be a challenge relative to the most common kinds of crash issues.
And I will say, when we look at technology in cars, we actually see a double-edged sword. We see incredible advancements with respect to safety technology that can prevent crashes and protect people in a post-crash environment, but we also see a huge proliferation of infotainment inside the vehicle that doesn't necessarily create a more attentive driver.
Should the automakers be doing more to tell the story you're here telling today?
I think the automakers are actually doing a great job putting some of this technology into cars. It's not being mandated in many instances, and some of the fleets are actually not just putting it in as optional equipment for their high-end vehicles, they're actually pushing. So for example, Honda, Toyota, some of their lower, best-selling vehicles are getting this as standard equipment rather than having it as a high-level option. I think that's awesome to see that happen, because you don't want it just to be in the Teslas and the Cadillacs and the cars that everybody can't buy. And so the auto manufacturers are pushing out, but I do think there are more opportunities to educate consumers about the vehicle technology, because especially especially when some of this is elective or optional, people may not opt to buy it, but I think if they understood some of the benefits. IIHS did a study where they identified 4 safety technologies that are available now, that if they were, all 4 were implemented, 10,000 lives would be saved. And I mean, it's interesting because one of those technologies is the adaptive headlights. And most people don't think about adaptive headlights as being an incredibly safety beneficial technology, but some of the studies are showing it really is.